Today I would like to talk about Linux and Linux Mint, which is a distro of Linux. I would not get into too many details about what distro is and terms of Linux and these words because it's quite easy to Google. And part of the fun, frankly, as I will get into it, is to find out for yourself. Linux Mint just happens to be very popular and very polished. Um, I didn't really try other Linux distros before Mint, but I can say as a guy who comes to Linux from a new guy's point of view, a newbie, so to speak, not come with college certificates, computer science, and all that stuff. That might be beneficial for you guys. Okay, so I'll start with the pluses. What do I like and what I don't like about Linux? Starting with the pluses. What I like about Linux is first and foremost is that it's minimal. And again, I shouldn't say Linux, I should say Linux Mint. But I think this is true for all Linux distributions. If at all, Linux Mint, which comes with a nice desktop version. I personally use Cinnamon. You can again Google it up to see exactly what it means. But I use the Linux GNU interface. I mean, the Linux Cinnamon. I'm still getting used to all the terms. And as such, the point is that it's very visual desktop lookalike system, not kind of like the letter DOS prompt you would see in hacker movies and all that stuff. It's pretty nice out of the box. It comes with all this, desktop environment. You're gonna have a nice start menu on the bottom left. You're gonna have your applications, your desktop symbols, icons, and all that stuff. But what I mean by saying it's minimal, it comes with what you absolutely need to run, I think, to run a computer at home. When you get a computer from Best Buy or whatever, it comes with tons of crapware that you have to uninstall, and sometimes that struggle to uninstall them, and trial periods, and you have to sign to this and that, and there's all these accounts and agreements, and you have to activate your Windows, and you have to activate your Office suite, and you have to activate different programs, and then you just after you do all of that and you spend like an hour just cleaning all the crap you don't want, then you need to start downloading the stuff that you do need, because Windows come with Edge and not Chrome. So you have to download Chrome, and then you slowly have to put your extensions into it. And if you use a favorite programs or an application, all of that stuff comes in. Now, Linux Mint, I found out because it comes with software that is, free source. Some of it is free. Nothing of it is costing you money. It's completely free when you download it. I actually didn't encounter any trial software in there. Everything that I had is ready out of the box. For example, Linux Mint comes with Firefox installed, and even though I use Google Chrome for everything I do, I'm pretty much in Google environment. It's really nice to have a functional browser that I do recognize and I know that is a good supported browser. Not like Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer. That I mean, I haven't evaluated really the new Internet Explorer. What is it? 10, 9, 11, 21? I don't even know. I've been using Chrome for so long. So knowing that you have Firefox working on your computer fully updated is nice. Here's a browser out of the box that is free and is built by not an organization but people who actually build it up. Well, it is an organization, of course, but it's not like a huge mega corporation that is integrated into your entire system. Like you have Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer because you have Windows, and then you have Microsoft Office and all this Microsoft. Or if you use Google, the point is the same. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. My point is that it's very minimal. You get what you need. You get a nice supported web browser. You can't get Microsoft Office on it because, again, you need to buy it. I actually don't know if Microsoft Office exists for Linux, but then again, it's kind of stupid because you're running Windows for Office. Like, why would you run Linux if you want to run Microsoft Office. It doesn't make sense, but I wouldn't be surprised if it exists, because I guess people who use Linux have to work with people who use Office. But it does come with a nice suite of its own, LibreOffice. That's the free software that exists for that imitate Microsoft Office. I remember there is something called OpenOffice too. I'm not sure where I saw it or what happened to it, but that was an option. Anyway, now there is this LibreOffice. It's a Office Lite version, and the point of it that it allows you to open Word documents, PowerPoint presentation, whatever, as if you're using Office. That's the point. For those of you who are familiar with Google Documents, like I am, um, it's pretty straightforward to use this to open anything you might get in Microsoft Office. So that's, these are two very useful programs already come with it. You also get Mozilla Thunderbird, which is a really capable email client. Um, it's not very much different. Maybe that's the advantage. Then, when you get a Windows machine, you get the Office, Microsoft Office, and it comes with Outlook and Word and PowerPoint. But the big difference is that you're expected to pay for Microsoft Office, whether you want to or not, right? You use Windows, you don't have much of a choice. Like what other, you have to look for something else, and then you buy into this whole Microsoft suite deal, and sometimes you don't need it. It's overkill, at least in terms of money. If you just want to open, if your company works with Google Documents, for example, and you just need PowerPoint, occasional PowerPoint here and there, it's nice to have an alternative. So again, it comes with a good suite of options. All of these programs are all the basic programs you need to work with a computer are there, and it's very minimal. Now, the other thing that I found is that because it's minimal, it is also pretty fast to load. In my experience so far, it has been faster to reboot the computer into Linux than it has been to Windows. A difference is not that major, especially because I have a strong machine with a solid-state drive, so it's pretty fast anyway. But I have a feeling that if you have your laptop, and it's been used for the last 2 years, and it starts to getting slow, like the case is always with Windows, it might not be exactly the case for Linux. It's pretty light on what it runs, and I mean, computers get bogged down with software, but it will always be slightly faster. That's my feeling. It's quick start. It's right there. You have your account, you have your password, you log in, bang, here you go. Now it's getting a little bit more interesting, where Linux is really, so far I've been talking about things that just make it comparable to Windows or work with people who used to Windows or Mac for that matter, but it's more like, I guess, Windows folk. But here are the things that make it more better, I think, than Windows. Not just comparable, actually getting better over Windows from the little experience I have with it. So first of all, it's very custom made. And for me, I'm like a visual person and like some visual things. This is why I downloaded the desktop version. There is all these things that exist in Windows. You have like Windows call it widgets. They call it desktop legit. I forget what the word is, but they have their own Mint widgets things or Linux widgets that you can easily install and use. But the amount of levels that you get custom made into Linux is up to you. You can go as far and as deep as you want. I mean, obviously the OS is open source. You can tweak with the OS itself if you know what you're doing. You can open a terminal, which is unavoidable in Linux anyway. I'll get to that. And just tweak the hell out of what you want. You want like your desktop environment to look a little bit different. You want taskbar at the bottom to look different. And Linux, out of the box, Linux Mint come with a lot of these options that, quite honestly, I haven't found in Windows 10. Like you want to custom the colors of the desktop, you can do that. Not the desktop, I'm sorry. The colors of the taskbar, you can do that. They have like 16 different versions. You want to customize the date, so it looks like a weird mix of months and years that only makes sense to you, like in my case, you can do that. There is no like, the there are templates and there's things you can just switch and change any way you want. And I can tell that it just becomes, and the more of these things you can do. Um, you can customize the hell out of Linux. It's beautiful in that regard. Um, yeah, the last thing I want to say is overall, it's a pretty safe experiment. I didn't try Linux before, I haven't played with Linux like years ago, but it's rather easy to start a computer with Linux running. Put it on a USB drive, start. It's pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward, and if you do it the right way, you still have Windows, on the outer partitions. Or if you use a Mac, there is a way to do it on a Mac. Of course, Apple does not like anyone tampering with its software or hardware, so it's a little bit hard to set it up for Linux, but you can do that. And the point is, whatever OS you've been using before is still there. You just choose, there's a different option when you boot up your computer, and it's pretty easy to go back to Windows to fall back on what you're used to. So the transition is as fast or as slow as you would like it to be. Not only that, Linux comes with this great application called Wine, which also exists for Mac OS, I mean, which allows you to run Windows applications on Linux, or on Mac OS also, they support that as well. So for example, one of the games I play a lot, Hearthstone, exists. I mean, I can play it from inside Linux because I found it on Wine and I just play it that way. And it runs great. There is just a little glitch in the beginning where it has to reload twice because there's a separate program for the Battle.net launcher and the game itself. But after you do that, it's smooth sailing. There's no crashes. There's nothing. It runs beautifully. Um, so the same is probably true for, I don't know, like Photoshop or anything you do buy and you want to use and you have the Windows equivalent, like Office if you really insist to do that. You can go ahead and do it within the Wine environment. It works pretty well. Okay, so far I've been talking about what I like about Linux Mint specifically and Linux in general. Again, this is a very, very beginner's general point of view. I recognize that I haven't even scratched the surface. That. Um, Now I want to talk about the minuses, the bad thing about Linux. The bad thing. I mean, the things that I find annoying and hard to deal with when I'm playing with Linux Mint. First of all, as polished as Mint is, and as great as it runs and everything, it's still complicated. There are still things that will just not work. And that's just fair because most of the software out there is geared toward Windows machines, and then second place is Mac. And Mac has this nice niche that if it either works for Mac and verified, usually by the Play Store or whatever, so it 100% works, or it doesn't work at all, forget about it, you can touch it on the Mac. It's true for games and other things. Like the philosophy there is either it works 100% or don't mess with us. And you learn to appreciate this because you know that everything's supposed to work. And still they have some glitches here and there. With Windows, it's a little bit more of a Wild West. There are things that will work a little bit weird, will mess up with your Windows machine, but still, most of the software out there, including, by the way, malware and viruses and all this crapware that you're trying to stay away from, is still geared toward Windows. So this means that when you download software that's supposed to work with Linux, I'm not talking about using Wine and then running it in a Windows environment inside Linux. A program that's supposed to work with Linux, I find many times that there are still difficulties. I can't set up the program right, and I have to sit down and figure out what the problem is, and it takes hours to figure this out. And can be very annoying. And if you're not into all the technical stuff, and I don't mean like I'm not like crazy coder or someone who likes to necessarily mess with things, but I like to find a solution to a problem. So if writing down what you've been trying to do and go by process and go to support communities online and talk to people and really like try to break your head, that's a expression that English is a weird language. You really try to figure this out. If you're not into this, you're going to run into issues that are not that great. So you need to get your hands dirty. There is no way around it. Sooner or later, you have to open a terminal and you have to start putting commands in. and there's no way around commands besides just learning them. Most of them don't make sense straight out. It's all kind of an abbreviation that made sense to some guy. What his name? Linus, the guy who actually invented Linux, made sense to him, years ago, and don't necessarily make sense anymore. But tough luck. That's how it is. You have to learn these commands. And if you really want to administer Linux, and if you really want to work it out, and if you really want to make sure everything works, you'll have to get your hands dirty. You'll have to go to a terminal, and you have to pretty much put your information this way. As much as I like the desktop environment, as much as it comes with all these tools, there are still issues. There are still a lot of issues, and right now, for example, I had a Plex server that worked great out of the box. Still works great. I mean, on my Windows machine, it works great. On my computer, I have the app on my phone. I have the TV back there. It works on it. I have a Chromecast. Great. Zero configuration, no problem. Linux, nothing. I had tried, different things. The specific problem is it doesn't read my external hard drive. So you have to install this program to let Linux understand how to read the hard drive. I'm not using exactly the right technical terms, I understand. And then after you do that, you have to give it permission to actually read and write into the hard drive. And then it might work, but in my case, for example, you double click and then nothing happens. The app just doesn't launch. Why? I don't know. That's for next weekend to find out. And this is the attitude you're going to have with Linux. And as polished as Mint is, I run into these issues again and again and again, enough that I get really frustrated and I just go like, the hell with it, and I just like reboot the computer back into Windows and I do whatever I want to do with Windows. Out of spite. I don't like what I do on the Windows. I want to go back to Linux. I really want to like it, but there's so many hours in the weekend, and I on my level, learning and reading all these things just to get a freaking Plex service run, it's annoying. One of the most the great examples I can give you that drives me crazy is the simplicity of doing a shortcut on a Windows machine or a Mac. Right click, desktop shortcut, works. In Linux, it's not that simple. You have different, again, I'm not using the right terms, you have different kinds of desktop shortcuts, and Windows and Mac just make it look like it's just a shortcut, like a shortcut is a shortcut, right? You click on a shortcut to a share or a server to get your files. That's the same thing as clicking on a program shortcut, right? It's the same thing. No, it's not. And the reality is that it's not. The folks who, Microsoft and Apple went a long way to make it look like a shortcut, that the only thing you do, you click, and it works. But in reality, it's not. It's completely different. And Linux doesn't hold your hand in that. So if you want, for example, a desktop shortcut to a shared drive where you have your files, good luck doing it in Linux. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. You can do a favorite folder. You can open up your file manager that I forgot how it has a name in Linux Mint. I forgot. And you can go there fast enough. But a shortcut on the desktop, I couldn't manage how to do that. And I also find that, the help for that, for example, for this, is not there because people who work and want to work fast in Linux just go via the command line. They don't even bother. It's just like, why would you even have this shortcut? Because I know how to do blah on the, on the keyboard, blah, blah, blah. And you get there and it works. And yeah, it's that simple actually to get files back and forth when you know the syntax. But you, or me, you or whatever, if you come from the Windows environment and you use to double click, then you get this nice window of File Explorer to find and drag and file. Forget about this. It's not going to work this way. Again, Linus Mint did a great job, and there is a shortcut that exists inside the file manager, but this whole thing is like a package, and it still feels like, let's make it nice for new people. But actually, if you really want to know your crap, you need to know how to code, how to use the command line. And that's the bottom line again. And it still gets very complicated, and you need to get out of this Windows mindset that you're not coming from the desktop and you're going to use things, and the desktop is the main environment. If you think about it, if you look in Windows, the desktop used to be the topmost folder. The root folder was a desktop. And it's not true. It's an illusion. The desktop folder is actually, inside your user folder, inside your Windows folder, etc., etc. But Windows have been selling us this illusion for so long that desktop is the main part. This is the first thing you see when you start your computer. Then when you start Linux, which is built like the computer's supposed to really work, suddenly you're like, wait, what is this desktop? And Linux basically tells you like, oh, desktop is just this like other, fluff thing we do. So it looks nice, but actually if you really want to work, you go around this entire thing. And it's true. There is no reason for you to even install on a desktop if you know your commands right. Um, this is the single most frustrating thing because you really need to change your mindset. Then, of course, there are different things. Certain drivers might not be supported. For example, I have my webcam, which works nice on Linux, but I don't even try to test it because I know the official driver comes from Logitech, so I need to go to Logitech website, and they have only a driver for Windows, so be it. Video card might have issues, even though they get tremendous jobs. I mean, right now everything runs. But you might run into these problems, and you need to have the time. You really need to have the time to sit down, understand, learn, and try to apply this. It's a great reward when it works. It's great when it works, but a lot of time. Okay, another thing that is kind of sucky with Linux that I would like to talk about is how you pass into nerdland, right? So people who use Linux are these nerds or geeks or whatever, and they're like hardcore now because not only you like technology, you're actually messing with Linux. Oh, this is for serious coders and hackers and blah 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 blah. And this is a little bit, I mean, it's definitely over the top. I mean, you can just installing Linux is really easy, and you can, I don't think you actually can, but you can kind of stay away, you can kind of stay in the desktop environment for long enough and kind of get away with it, but why would you do that? Just stay in Windows? So it is that you're kind of becoming more of a hardcore geek, because most people who install Linux, in my opinion, are people who probably want to tweak around with Linux, want to tweak around with it. Otherwise, why would you bother? If you don't have money at all, you can buy a Chromebook, right? It's cheap. Everyone's using it. So now you pass into nerdland, and what happens there is only your friends like, oh, you're a real geek now. Oh, it's not just that. It's the fact that now everything you're looking for, help and tutorials, they are talking a lot of tongue-in-cheek and a lot of lingo and just throw out there at you, and you're supposed to know that. And there's this huge gap that is hard to gap. So that is hard to bridge. So, I mean, I've been using the Linux forums. I've been using the Linux, just so you understand, Linux Mint come with links to the community forum, which is very inviting to ask questions. They come with their own IRC channel, which is chat. You just go on chat room and you ask questions. It comes with a nice PDF manual for you to look at and just read. And there are a lot of YouTube tutorials for Linux in general. Actually, most of the tutorials that I found were still for Ubuntu, not for Mint, but still. And when you go out there, though, beyond this very basic level of the manual that you start, everything else, people expect you to like, oh, you just install this app, go to the command line, and do apt-get, yeah, sudo apt-get, and download this app, and you'll find it. Oh, you don't have it done in the depository, so you need to, update the depository on your machine, and then you'll find it. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute, command line? How do I even open that up? And then people look at you like, are you a fucking idiot? Like, like you don't know how to open the terminal in Linux Mint? You're like, no, I haven't used it before. No, I know about MS-DOS, so didn't you read the manual? And yeah, there's so much, a lot of RTFM, that's how it's called, in Linux. And it's not that people are not nice and they just kind of flame you. Some of them do, but not in general. But there's the help that you need is on this technical level, like right here. And where you are is right here. So in order to get the help that you need, you really need to get to this level. And it's hard. And this is the part that I was explaining before. So you are expected to be this snarky geek already in this technical level before these people will actually talk to you. Because they talking to you about, here's where the problem is. I know that A, B, and C is the problems. So for example, if I need to troubleshoot my Plex server in Linux, I'm expected to know what permissions are, how to change them, and how to use the terminal for that. I'm expected to know where the application itself installs files into the Linux machine so I can play with them and understand where the folders are, you know. And of course, I'm expected to know how to paste commands into the terminal from a website, and you're supposed to just trust people because these are pseudo commands, and I'm still uncomfortable copy pasting commands that I have no idea what the hell they're doing besides what they're telling me on the website. I'll just copy paste it because that's what you're telling me, and it's running on a root level, pseudo level, and it can mess my machine up, but I'm just gonna trust it. I don't like that. I want to understand what I'm doing, and that takes a lot of time. And people don't have the patience for it, and most of the manual and tutorials you'll find will already be on that high level. And a lot of people get a kick out of just throwing all this like technical lingo at you to kind of like as a, you know, it's an admission ticket. If you don't understand what I'm saying, then go back and read the manual. And I already encountered some people. I don't think like on you know, they're out of malice or like they're really trying to like burn me or something. But you ask help, and they're talking on this level, you're just like, wait, like, what are you talking about? And then they don't know how to go down and explain to you what you do, and they don't have the time for it. They'll just be like, you know, RTFM, what can I tell you? Like, I did. I read the manual. That's what I'm talking about. I read the manual. I went to the community. I'm here in this chat room because I couldn't find on Google. I couldn't find because I don't know what I'm looking for. And that's the problem. Don't know what you're looking for, and you will encounter a lot of problems. So I was talking about how complicated it is and how we kind of got expected to be this nerd, which is kind of like in the same thing, I guess. And the last thing also, it also falls in the same category. If you're out there and you're looking for help, if you go for Windows, there are tons of websites and tutorials on you know, YouTube and whatnot on various levels of people who will explain to you how to do something and how to troubleshoot in Windows. You can do this, you go there, you click here, you click that, and everything is like a nice walkthrough. You click here, you press on this, you press on this works, and this is how you do it. Stripped down version, you know. You can go on lynda.com for like tutorials on how to do things in Mac, and they explain it to you, and it's so clear and beautiful. And if you have a Mac, forget about it. If you have a Mac, everything is explained to you. If something, God forbid, you don't understand something, you just call Apple, and you have this guy on the other line because you bought their warranty for $1,000, whatever that is, and he's gonna sit there with you. And you can tell this guy, I don't understand your accent. I want someone from, you know, from the US, and they'll fetch someone. God forbid you'll get offended. They'll fetch someone else for you to sit down with you for an hour and figure out the software and everything. And if it doesn't work for your liking, we'll make an appointment for you and you come. This is an extreme on one end. This is Apple for you. So when you buy Apple, when you buy this machine, you buy all this service into it, right? Windows is way more Wild West, like I said before. But you can still find tons of, actually most of the help and most of the tutorials and most of the courses online will tell you how to work it in Windows because the expectation is that you're using Windows. But for Linux, you're not really going to find a lot. It's kind of like a niche thing. You're going to find there's a community of people who will explain how to do that. But then again, you know, if you're using Linux Mint, I'm still lucky because I'm using Mint. If you're using something that is not as familiar, and you need help with Linux, you're going to have a hard time trying to find it. It's not going to be that easy to try to Google it up. Not a lot of people, and when you find the right video or tutorial, your system is not exactly set up the same way. They have version Mint 14 and you have 17, and you realize it's from 2011, and it's not exactly the same thing. So bottom line, should you actually get Linux or not? So from my perspective, and again, I'm a guy that coming from little technical knowledge, not a lot. If you like the minimalistic, so to speak, point of view, I think that's a good choice because the Linux Mint comes with very basic applications that you do need to run just, you know, your everyday tasks, whether it's like Office apps or just, you know, editing some photos or storing the photos, whatever. All this comes right out of the box, really easy to use, but it doesn't come with all the bloatware and all this stuff that you'll get if you just get a computer at, you know, Best Buy or something, and then you have to remove all the crapware that comes with Dell or whatnot. So if you're into that and you just want your computer to work and work fast, and you're into minimal, file management, working and from home, things like that, it's great. If you don't like, and again, the minimalistic point of view, it depends where you're coming from. If you need something that comes with support, you need something that you don't want to deal with all the technicalities often, and you are doing something that is very specific. For example, if you're into video editing and you're doing it on a somewhat professional level, I mean, and I'm not saying it has to be high quality, but this is your profession. You're actually making money out of editing videos, probably not a good idea. Same thing if you're in marketing, if you're doing any graphics, just because most of the software out there is not geared toward Linux, and you're going to have hard time finding the right tools and also learning to work with them. Same thing, of course, goes for gaming. If you're serious and if you're a heavy gamer, even though Steam has a good Linux client, which I still, by the way, have a problem working with, but apparently it's supposed to be a good client. If you're seriously into games, not the platform for you. You're much better off with Windows. Stick with that. General office productivity. If you are the kind of person who carries around a laptop and does most of the work from just a laptop, coffee shops, your office, and taking the same machine home also, that's depends. That's I would say that borderline. You probably better off with a good laptop. And again, I would say like if you have money to invest in a Mac, you probably want to do that because the reason behind that, if this is your only computer, and you only have one computer that you need to work, you probably want to have the resources to keep it working at all times. So you're looking probably at a Mac and the warranty and all the service that comes around with it when you're buying an Apple computer. That's a good investment, and if it's your single computer, you should definitely, I would say, put your money there because it'll be worth it. You'll end up paying for your investment. But if you like to play around and you want a minimalistic point of view, and this is not your major computer, it's a second one, maybe a third one, and you're looking for something more simple, you want to simplify things, this is a good choice. And again, it's very stable. Linux Mint, from my understanding, I just started using it. It came a long way. It's a very easy setup. You don't need to set up anything to start it. Literally takes you 30 seconds and you boot into it and there are zero problems, at least in the beginning. Then you start finding out, different things you need to figure out. So you can always give it a try. Give it a try. If you don't like it, no hard feeling, no problem. Just, take out the USB stick and reboot it into Windows or Mac, whatever. And there you go. You have it. So these were my thoughts about Linux Mint into, I would say, about a month of using it. Again, as much as I sound pro Linux Mint and I like the idea of it a lot, I have to emphasize I like the idea a lot, it is a pain in the butt. You have to work with it. You need to put time and energy into it. So again, it's my honest opinion, and hopefully it will help you decide for yourself if you want to do that, if you want to step into that area. All right, let me know in your comments if you have any questions about it. If you're curious about certain things, I'll do my best to answer. And yeah, until next time, see you later. Bye.